There's that conflict, a look of a Spielberg film, the tone of a Hooper film.
Even the little girl,
Yeah.
she's like a puppet. Why do people have puppets? It's disgusting.
It just feels off.
Poltergeist.
Welcome back. Colin Dave versus the Machine.
Video edition.
It's pretty self-evident. This week we get to watch a horror classic, me for the first time, but everybody knows this poster. Poltergeist.
They're here.
They're here. Ugh. Kyle, as a horror aficionado, give me the goods.
I should say this is technically my first time watching it as well.
Oh, wow.
Sort of. The one time I did try to watch this, I got very drunk and fell asleep like 10 minutes in.
Maybe you had a seizure.
Could have. There's a lot of blinking lights in this movie.
I watched it in a window this small.
And it's not that Dave is a weenie. I mean, that is true. But also, you can, have a seizure
I
and
can
die.
actually legitimately have a seizure.
I have to say this. I think I ended up being much more positive on this movie than you were. I feel that this movie suffers a little bit from a conflict of tone. And there's a whole backstory that we're not going to get into about who actually directed this movie.
That's the whole review.
Yeah,
the only thing that's important is that the controversy or
yes.
the suggestion is that maybe Steven Spielberg directed this.
I think that is not true. There might have been a scene or a setup that Spielberg suggested. But I really 50%. Do think, reading into it, I think Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame was also a very quiet man. Mm-hmm. And because Spielberg, as a producer and co-writer, was on set all the time, I think he just deferred to Spielberg if there was a question from the crew. Where should we put these lights? How should we set this shot up? How should we do this thing? I think that is the influence you're seeing because the actual tone of the movie is Tobe Hooper. Yes, some of the shot constructions may be Spielberg, but I do think Tobe Hooper is the actual director of this movie. Unfortunately, because there's that conflict of a look of a Spielberg film with the tone of a Hooper film, it just feels off. He's not interested in who these people are or this family really. They're just a vehicle to get into the gruesome, gory stuff. Yeah. And some of that is fun and some of that is good, but I wish I actually cared about a single person inside of this film because they don't really feel like people at the end of the day. They feel like caricatures.
Even the little girl, she's like a puppet. Why do people have puppets? It's disgusting. I will say that it is pretty evident when Toby gets in because the grotesque horror moments are very weird, right? The gnarled tree that eats a boy, raw steak on a countertop that
if this doesn't get you to listen to the audio podcast, we spend a good 5 minutes talking about this steak.
Stupid steak. Who takes a raw steak out of a fridge and throws it on a countertop?
Psychopath.
The guy doesn't even live there. He's just like, I'm kind of hungry. I'm
throw it onto the counter.
And then there are other ET-like scenes, anytime, particularly with the actual poltergeist paranormal flowing things where the lighting, the setup is very, very Steven Spielberg. The biking, the neighborhood not panning, what do you call it? Crane shot. It was okay. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both are kind of it's fine. Scariest movie of all time?
No.
I just rewatched The Shining, so no. So many people say this is one of the top 10 scariest films of all time. And I never felt that. I felt there was the PG-ness of it restrains it from being the scariest movie I've ever seen. Isolated scenes are great. Tangina, I want to say is the character's name. The small woman who comes in, purifies. Like I say in the episode, I want an action figure of her. I think she's phenomenal. I love that entire sequence.
That sequence is very Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, but the people don't feel like people, and I think that there was such an easy way to tie this all together, building the house on an old cemetery.
Classic trope stuff, right?
Classic tropey stuff. This could be a good iteration of that idea.
Mm-hmm. Should have found the first skeleton when they dug the pool. It doesn't matter. Plot construction is not important for this.
It's fine, but I'm always going to be picking a different horror film to watch on Halloween, I guess is the quickest answer.
If you have problems with flashing lights, don't watch this movie.
Yes,
if you just throw that one more time.
Suffer from epilepsy, not a great pick.
Yeah, literally a movie of strobe lights. Anything else we need to talk about that film?
The curse of the Poltergeist.
The two girls
had a terrible life after this movie.
One was strangled to death. You can Google that.
Why would I Google that?
That little girl survived 8 more years, 2 sequels, and she died gruesomely from some disease, undiagnosed. It's depressing. Thank you for bringing that up, by the way.
Well, you can comment down below what you think about Poltergeist and what your thoughts and feelings are. Who actually directed this film? Next time we come to you into your hearts and homes, we are going to be talking about Tron. We're going inside the computer.
The files are inside the computer? Zoolander. That's probably too passé.
Remember 2001, folks?
I do.